Let's take a breath together. I have a very dear friend who is an amazing practitioner who told me, if your community hasn't already figured out you're nuts after your talk this morning, they will know it for sure. I love, like insanely love, fear. It excites me. It is such amazing, fertile ground that I invite it at its will into my awareness. Why would I do such a thing? Because I'm nuts. I heard that. You're not wrong. Here's the thing about fear. It informs me with such laser accuracy that there's no debating, there's no wondering, there's no wiggle room. It informs me with laser accuracy where my beliefs are out of alignment with the truth of my being. Why wouldn't I want that information? Well, lots of reasons, not the least of which I'm scared I can't do anything about it. See, fear is this little layered octopus with lots of tentacles. And interestingly enough, the origin of the word has nothing to do with anything that would make us feel uncomfortable. If we go to the root of fear, it implies reverence or respect for the law of God. I love the facial expressions. What? Yeah. The word fear, as used in the Bible, implies reverence or respect for the law of God. All your heart represents the whole of the inner consciousness or the inner source of life, which should be dedicated to our living. It is that sense of awe and wonder. And somewhere along the path of separation, we got uncomfortable with experiencing this awe and wonder as actually being within us. And at one point in humanity, there was a thought that it's too much or it's too big, or who knows what the original thought was, but it separated us from it, from the very truth of who we are. Because everything that you experience on this planet, when you stand at a waterfall and everything inside of you is just in awe of the magnificence and the power and the beauty of that waterfall, you're looking at yourself. Do you get that? When you watch a sunset and it moves you to tears, you are looking at an expression of your own being. If there's only one thing happening, we're all of it. But we're living this human experience. And maybe it's just some cosmic joke. Sometimes I don't know, because the whole journey is about understanding that this world that we live in, where everything, not just some things, but every freaking thing we encounter looks separate. And yet we're supposed to know, not just believe, But no, to move from believing to knowing about to actually knowing and embodying an experience of oneness in a world of otherness. You can't say creation doesn't have a sense of humor, because that's just funny when you break it down. It's like, really? How? Well, there are some ways we can do it. The first thing we have to do is take responsibility for our words and the agreements that we've made about what they mean. If we relate to fear as something to be avoided, then what we're really doing is operating from a belief that says, oneness isn't true. I'm really not a divine expression of the one, because I believe there really is something to be afraid of. And I'm going to give that all my power. I'm going to pedal really hard to look like I'm doing something else, because I'm too scared to look at that root belief. Because what if I'm right? What if I'm right? I entertain that from time to time. There's a line in a 12-step text that says, to be truly open-minded means to entertain the notion that everything I think I know could be wrong. Everything. So when I apply that to my spirituality, invariably what comes up, and it might have something to do with how I was raised, maybe, is, what if there is a hell? What if I'm wrong? What if I'm diddy-bopping around dismissing this pit of eternal damnation and it's real? What if that's true? And so my inside says, what if it is? What if it is? You're not going to know till you get there. So what if it is? What if it's not? What if it is? You got a 50-50 shot, Rafe. What are you doing now? And what if you lived your life now in alignment with what resonates with your soul as peaceful, as kind, as loving? What if you invited every message as an invitation to identify those gaps where you don't know what you believe as a way to explore them? What if you did that? Would it really matter what happens afterwards? Do you really have time to care if you're busy doing all of that? And the answer that I always come back to is, well, no, I'll be quite busy. And that's what I do. And then it stops to matter because I'm wrapping it in love. Okay? Why do I love fear? Because love transforms everything unlike itself. Everything. So let's say I experience an internal message as fear. What if it's not fear? What if it's the intuitive guiding me to something that is on my behalf, and my ego doesn't recognize it as that? Because that has happened frequently when I've explored this idea of fear through love. When I sit with it, just like I would sit with a friend at the kitchen table, I envision myself setting out 2 cups of coffee and 2 chairs, and I invite fear to sit down. Let's have a conversation. What are you here to tell me? What gift have you brought me? And sometimes it's just the gift that, I don't know where you got this belief, but it does not serve you and there's not a grain of truth in it. Here's what's actually true. But if I don't have the challenge, then I don't know that what I'm believing is not true. And sometimes it is my autonomic nervous system protecting my physical being. See, every living creature that has the ability to scurry away from physical endangerment does so. We are the only species that chastises ourselves for doing it. Isn't that odd? I'm just going to go out on a limb and say never once have any of you ever been out in nature and encountered a deer or a squirrel or a rabbit that when they noticed you, they bolted, and you were like, you need to work on that fear, dear. I'm just saying. So bring yourself over to this pasture, and I'm going to tell you how to not be afraid. We don't do that. We recognize it as a marvel of nature. What if our autonomic nervous system, that, by the way, functions completely independent of thought is registered after the autonomic nervous system is triggered. Perhaps that is an amazing biological, physiological gift from the divine in us, just like it is in wildlife. Perhaps. And perhaps if we loved that system, we would find ourselves in fewer abusive relationships. Perhaps if we took our fear and wrapped it in love and listened to what it's actually informing us of, we would stop dismissing the abuse, and we would use our God-given ability to walk away from those relationships. Maybe we would stop excusing our abuse of the planet. Maybe. I'm not suggesting that we walk around in a state of fear. Quite the opposite. What I'm suggesting is that we shift to a new level of paying attention. That we consider that when a thought pops up that is associated with a feeling that we associate with fear, that we pause and consider the piece of information as valuable, or we wouldn't be having it. See, there's nothing in divine creation that is useless. So if you're having the awareness, it has to be purposeful. And the purpose may be simply to help us recognize where we're out of alignment with truth. Great. I welcome those things, because how do I know otherwise? How do I know? You know, if I'm heading down a one-way street, we can default to, it's okay, I'm only going one way. But if it's a narrow one way and I'm going the incorrect way, a sign that says do not enter is helpful, yes? Perhaps some of the messages that we latch onto from a fearful place are just do not enter signs. Or they are U-turn, danger ahead signs. And how might our experience change if we just entertained, what message have you brought me? We recently passed the 18-year anniversary of 9/11. And there were a lot of people on that day who couldn't explain to you at the time, change their plans on their way to work, change their plans for their flight with no logical explanation other than I had this sense that I needed to not go. Perhaps the intuitive has the capacity to communicate with us beyond our human reasoning apparatus. Deborah used to work at St. Helena Hospital when we lived in Sonoma County. And she called one day from work, and I said, "Don't come home." "Why not?" "I don't know, but don't come home." Right. Now, she's lived with me long enough that, she loves my craziness. She's like, "Okay, I'll stay the night." Later that day, in the exact time, if you map it out, when she would have left, the route of travel that she would have been coming home, the time frame was spot on to the second. She would have been taken off the road in a huge mudslide. Now, I'm not magic. I'm really not. I don't have a crystal ball installed somewhere, so please don't email me, "Should I do this?" I don't know. I say that because it's happened, okay? But you know. See, you know everything that you need to know about everything that is yours to do. What we don't always know is how to listen. And then when we actually do listen, we don't necessarily know what to do with what we heard. Okay? And so that gap happens. And in that gap, for lack of a better thing to put there, we put fear there. And then we dismiss it. And then, lo and behold, 10 years later, we recreate the same experience. Okay? Am I the only one who had the same relationship over and over again with different people? Until we wake up and go, "Oh, the common denominator is May." Oopsie. And what am I doing? What's my pattern? What am I so afraid to see? And my personal experience has been, it wasn't that big of a deal once I saw it. And here's the thing I want if you don't get anything else from this talk this morning, get this. There's not going to be any surprises in your belief system. You already know what your belief system is. You're working really hard at denying it, and that's what fear is all about. So you already know it. What if you just stopped fighting and quit judging you and just said, "Yeah, I believe that. And I also believe it's not true. And I also don't know what to do now." We stop making it so big. And maybe treat it like a roller coaster. Treat it like something that excites you. Because energetically, fear and excitement, same sensation in the body. Same sensation. We made roller coasters to scare ourselves for fun. We do horror movies to scare the bejeezers out of ourselves for fun. And yet when it's legitimate, we turn all the switches off and refuse to learn from it. We are funny monkeys, aren't we? Us evolved primates. Someday I'm not sure we're the most evolved species, I just gotta say. Because I think our ability to think is our biggest challenge. Because we use it to avoid our magnificence. Marianne Williamson has a piece that talks about what we're most afraid of is our own magnificence. And I have found that to be true. Because if I stand in the full measure of the brilliance of creation as me, some of you won't like it. Some of you will go away. Some of you will talk about me behind my back. Some of you will talk about me to my face. I prefer that one, for the record. Some people will go away That's true. So if your thought process is, if I am authentically me, my life will change, you're absolutely correct. So we've resolved that. Now what are you afraid of? See, we're not really afraid of it. We just haven't learned how to embrace it in love. There are no secrets. Nothing has happened in your life that you were not present for. See, you're not going to find out any secret. You're not going to find any information that you were not present for. I promise you. There was not a time and space where you were taken out of your body and put in a cryo freeze and life went on and now you're back in it. And if I look at my thoughts, I'm going to find out something that I didn't have any participation in. It's not possible. You already know it. What if you stop working so hard at avoiding what you already know and embrace it with love? Invite it in as the best guest that has visited you in a while. The guest that brings you the greatest gift that you could not even have imagined getting. And that embracing that gift with love builds an instant bridge and pathway back to you. Not to the you that you think you're supposed to be to make somebody else happy, but the authentic you, the spiritual you, the divine creator as you. What if you did that? How would your life change? And would it really matter who came and who went? I don't think it would. I think you would be so overwhelmed with peace and joy that all you would see is your magnificence. And when you only see your magnificence, that's all you will see in all of creation. Notice the things that you're afraid of are the things you key in on other people about. It's always giving us information about what needs to shift here. What needs to shift here. Ernest Holmes says this: love alone can overcome fear because love surrenders itself to the object of its adoration. What is the object of your adoration? If it isn't you, if the object of your adoration is anything less than Creator manifested in form as you, take all of the fears that's getting in the way of that and bring them to love. Ask them. Ask that fear, what gift do you bring me? Learn where you're out of alignment so you can move into alignment. You are the amazing, brilliant, whole, perfect, and complete manifestation of the one Creator in form. There is not now, nor have there ever been anything wrong with you. Nothing in you is missing. There's nothing to search for, to add. You are the divine in form. I invite you this morning, if you're running from that, just stop. Let your magnificence hit you. You'll be okay. I promise. And if you're not, I will gladly refund your misery. Let's take this into prayer. How good it is to know, to really know in every fiber of my being that there is one infinite allness. And in this one there can be no other. In this one there is no opposition to itself. So everything within it must be it. It creates out of itself, by itself, to know itself, experience itself in form. So it must be my life. It must be the very breath I breathe. And what is true of me is true of all life. And so I simply speak my word, which is the word of the infinite spoken as me this moment. Claiming, affirming, declaring a revelation of the truth, of the authenticity that every manifestation of the divine is. That anything unlike the magnificence and the love is brought to our individualized attention to be wrapped in love and transformed. That there is a sense of gratitude and thanksgiving for the gift of the information. That there is an exciting embrace of every nudge closer to our authentic experience of our authenticity, of our oneness. And even as I hear the words spoken, I feel the gratitude. I feel the hallelujah ignite and rise up within my inner being as it recognizes the truth of itself spoken. And so it is from this place of gratitude, from this place of excitement, of unbridled joy, that I confidently release the word of the one spoken as me into the activity of law of itself, knowing it's already done. Already done. And so I simply move through this experience of human life looking for the evidence where it is done, and celebrate that and embody that and manifest more of that. Grateful to be of service, grateful to know how it works. And so in this truth I release, I let it go, I let it be, and invite you to join me as we say together, and so it is.